Okay, clean the table a bit. I'm going to be repotting into this pot that I got from my friend Vicky at Pottery. They're based here in Mossel Bay. It is a pot that was actually not destined for selling, and it's big enough for this tree. I'll just be using it to get things going again. Later on, when I've got the canopy styled and the tree growing as I want it, then I'll be looking at a dedicated pot on which I'll spend some money. But for now, it's basically just to get it into another pot, get it out of that growth tray, and getting it to look like a bonsai tree in a pot. Alright, we are back with the roots. You'll see a lot of the root growth has come to the right hand side, which we'll be rectifying a bit, just getting it cleaned. Basically, the taproot on this one was removed earlier on when I got the trees, and the one thing with the monkey thorn trees is once you start cutting on the roots, they do tend to throw off a lot of leaves. That's normal. So if you are new to the bonsai with the monkey thorn trees, or the apiesdoring as it's known in Afrikaans, you don't have to get a fright. If you do see a lot of yellowing in the leaves, just make a point to remove excess leaves to allow the tree to recover. If you are not going to remove enough leaves, then you run the risk of losing the tree. That being said, you've obviously got to make sure that you don't remove so much root ball that you've got to remove a lot of canopy, which leaves you with nothing to work with, and you've got to start the whole process over again. So keep that in mind. Be gentle with the roots on the monkey thorn trees. Give them room to grow, and don't cut back too much. Rather take your time. We all know that bonsai trees do not take shape and grow overnight. It's something that takes time, and you have to wait for it and let the tree do its thing. Okay, let's start having a look at these roots. We've got a pretty big strong root growing out this way, which I'm definitely going to keep, but we'll be cutting back some of the other roots. This is a long one. We don't need them to be that long, so we'll cut that one back to there. Jasmine's trying to make a statement. A lot of fine roots on this side, with most of the bigger roots growing out on this side, which I actually find quite interesting, because as it was in the pot, I would have thought that most of the roots would have come out, grown to the other side. Be that as it may, I'm not going to complain. Is a stubborn root. Just cut it off like that. It's always important to get as much of the soil out of the root system as you can, so that you can see what's going on. The last thing you want to do is accidentally cut off a main root. This one, as you can see, is growing out from underneath and growing back to the other side. I think for now I'll keep it. Not going to bother anybody. As for the root pruning, I'm going to leave it there. I've got enough space in the pot. I might trim these long ones back a little bit more, just to allow for some space. I've basically got my base layer of Leica and peat moss in the pot. This is a growing medium I get from Bonsai tree. It's easiest for me to use. I don't have to worry about mixing my own and trying to get things balanced properly. And I've found that the root growth on many of the other trees when using this growing medium has been very, very good. So I'm hoping it will do the same for this tree. Now the main thing is to find a spot in the pot where this tree will look its best. I do believe that I am most likely going to have to wire this tree in place in the pot. It is a little heavy. I'm not sure if the soil alone will be enough to keep it in place. As I've said before in some of my videos, this is also still a learning process for me. Now, when you are required to wire a tree into the pot, make sure that you do the wiring and your sheet that covers your holes first before you put in any of your base layer. Because if you don't, you're going to poke it through and you have a problem, because now this is lifted and some of my Leica has gone and my medium has gone underneath this. So I'm going to have to throw all of this out and get the wiring in place and then add the base layer again. So yeah, if you haven't done this before, learn from my mistake. Okay, basically you'll see I've got my wiring in place now and the base layer has been replaced. So let's have another go at this and see how we can here we go. Now the trick will be is to just get these wires across the roots. You of course don't want to tighten it too much, as that will damage the tree, the roots, which is the last thing you'll want to do, of course. And this is the time in bonsai when you wish you had 4 arms and 4 hands, as that would have made it a lot easier. And basically we've got our tree placed. I am actually going to remove this root that's growing out of the top of the other one. It's going to become a problem. So let's just take that off there. And the cutoff point will be below the growing medium, which will of course then give the tree the opportunity to just create some more new growth in the root system. Alright, let's get some see I just add a little bit at a time, for the simple reason that I use my trusty chopstick to work it in between the roots, work a growth medium in between, so that you don't have any air pockets that form where your roots don't have any contact with the growth medium, which of course leads to opportunities for all sorts of other funny things to happen with the roots dying off, too much water collecting. And this of course also helps to stabilize the tree when you add the rest. We've got another funky root growing up here, but I'm just going to guide that in below there, see if we can keep it down with some of the new medium that we'll add just now. We'll get it down there. I don't want to cut it off. It's one of the stronger roots on the side of the tree, so yeah. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a rock, a smallish rock that I can use to just pin it down and keep it underneath this medium so that it can grow there. I magically procure a rock out of thin air. It's actually my daughter that has helped me. My son is standing behind the camera. They find all the video making highly amusing, trying to hold their laughter while their father feels like a total idiot talking to a camera while there are people there. Now we get to the fun part, and that is the pruning of the monkey thorn, which in itself is a challenge because of these thorns. One of which I'll remove now. We've got a lot of growth coming inwards, and this of course is not ideal. I want this canopy to grow out nice and wide, so a lot of this growth coming in we'll be removing carefully. Just neaten this up a bit. It wasn't a very good cut. There we go. We've got this branch growing in diagonally, but I'm cutting it off just above a new growth point which is pointing outwards, so it will give it some direction for the new growth. My dogs are running races. what I will be doing as well is taking some growth off the top. Going to be taking some growth off the top here to allow it to spread out a bit and get a nice wide canopy. If you have a look on the internet, you'll see a lot of these trees have a flat top and grow out pretty wide, and this is because of the fact that the giraffes tend to graze the top of the trees where all the new growth and the fine growth is, the new sweet leaves, and they play a big role in shaping the trees in nature. Now, I am not a giraffe, so I will not be eating any of my leaves. What I will be doing is I'll be pruning them to create and get the same effect. Here we are. Pruning these off again so that I've got this directionality coming out this way, and this one I'm taking off here because I want this growth and the tree growing out and creating new growth on this side. There's a nice branch there, so I'm just going to cut it off there. You'll see I don't cut too close to the new growth. There's always a little bit of dieback, and you don't want it dying all the way back to this, because then this dies and you are stuck with a ugly looking little branch that has no potential and no whatever. All that grinding is some of the soil that's still on the table. I do not have a turntable yet, and that is why I'm going to ask you to subscribe so that I can get my subscriber count up and I can then afford to buy a turntable. You'll see we've got this branch growing inwards and crossing the trunk to the back, which is not something that I'd actually want, but I'm not going to cut it off right at the base. I'm going to cut it off here at this level, as I have some new growth, or the potential of new growth over there. Which will bring out some new growth here. I will be leaving these bottom two branches to grow as they are, as this will help to thicken the trunk a bit. Although that said, I think that this might not be the best option, because it's actually going to create this trunk, or cause this trunk to grow thicker than what the base is, and we already see that happening over here. So this one is going to have to go. The tree is taking revenge. This is also a rather odd looking branch, all growing back this way. So we'll be this section of here. then we can decide what we want to do. I think I'm just going to take it off here. This is looking rather odd. With these two leaves or branches, so I'm just going to remove this completely. The nice thing with the monkey thorn is that they have the tendency to grow back, so we'll probably in this season we'll still see new growth coming out from this section where I've just cut this off, and we'll handle that as time goes on. I've just been having a look, and standing looking at the tree, there is a lot of new growth going on, so I can afford to cut back quite a bit of the new growth and give the tree the opportunity to create some more branches. It will also lessen the stress on the tree after the repotting. Gizmo agrees. You see the challenge here is getting in here and cutting this off. Yeah, we have some branches growing in, back in across the trunk. I don't want those. There's a lot of growth coming out this way, and it's actually making the tree look a little unbalanced. So we're going to be cutting back on that. To just bring a nice shape to this canopy. This one I don't want growing out further than the bottom, and it's also crossing a lot, so I'm going to cut it off here. And this will allow a lot of the growth energy to enter this little branch here, which will give it the opportunity to widen the canopy to this area, but because of the fact that most of the growth is on this side, and I want this side to catch up a bit. We have new neighbors, and the dogs are not used to the talking and the voices and everything that's going on. These scissors are just scissors I buy at the pharmacy, and they're especially handy when it comes to the smaller, thinner branches. When you just can't get your hands in there because of all the thorns and the twigs. This branch I'm also going to remove. There we go. I'll be monitoring the tree pretty closely as time goes by after the pruning to check on yellowing of the leaves. If I have an excessive amount of leaves that are yellowing, then I might have removed too much of the root. And as I said, you've got to try and not to do that with these trees. Ideally, you need to try and balance it, but of course it's not always possible. That said, they do have the ability to bounce back quite well. If you give them the TLC that they need, once you realize that they're battling a bit, you can get them to bounce back by just keeping them out of bright sunlight. This one will obviously go into a light spot, but not direct sun, to just help it recuperate after the pruning and the repotting. This branch I'm definitely going to remove. Again, some inward growth that I'm taking off. This branch has a weird and funny bend to it. I try and leave 2 buds when I do pruning. If I can't, it's not a train smash, as the monkey thorn does tend to back bud quite a bit. This one I'm going to cut back completely to have it grow back on this side. And I think for now that will be it. If you see anything that I did wrong, please let me know in the comments. Any suggestions are welcome, and subscriptions are even more welcome. Thanks, and see you soon. you.